Are there questions from other members of the committee? Senator Sampson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Representative. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
So, I guess there's a couple of things here. There's the discussion of licensing, and then there's this whole human trafficking discussion too. So let me just ask about the licensing piece first. We've heard some testimony, and I've talked with some folks that are in this industry, and it seems like they are all pretty much in favor of a licensing program, but they're not happy with what's in this bill. So I guess my question is, have you worked with the owners of these schools that do this type of training? Will you do that? Is that part of the plan to come up with a licensing scheme that's functioning?
So some of my legislative colleagues have been talking with the owners of the schools. I had yet to have that meeting, but have every intention of meeting with them and making this work for everyone.
Right, because there are quite a few issues with this bill. I have just out of the gate. I mean, is there a reciprocity provision in here?
So for folks that are already in,
Well, it might be licensed in another state.
yes. And if it's not strong enough, we need to fix that.
Okay.
But there,
Yeah.
yeah.
I just went through it quickly. I couldn't find that, but there is an intention of including a
Yes.
reciprocity provision. And how many states have licensing for nail technicians currently?
49.
I'm being told that there are only 19 states that require licensing, not 49.
That's incorrect. We are the only state that does not.
Okay. And what is the typical amount of training that they require? Because I heard discussion of 300 hours here and maybe 600 hours for something else.
So I've been told by those in the field that what's in the bill are the recommended number of hours. But again, open to dialogue in order to move this forward.
Okay. Is it your intent to make it more difficult to get this licensing in Connecticut than other states?
No, absolutely not.
All right. Well, that's good to hear. So, I guess on the trafficking issue, I guess I have some concern about the way this bill was put together, and I don't know that it was the right thing or that it should be being heard in this committee. But that's besides the point. I just read the article too about the 2 weeks ago. It seems to me what happened here is there were a great many labor violations that were committed, people not being paid properly, et cetera, that sort of thing. But those are already laws. Can you maybe explain to me how you propose that the licensing of nail salons has anything to do with these other types of human trafficking or labor violations?
So we see a greater number of these violations in the nail salon industry in Connecticut because we don't have any type of oversight. And so in order to open a nail salon at this point in time, one only needs to go to the local town hall and open the business. And so it takes the Department of Labor potentially doing these sweeps. Whereas if there was some more oversight, like having to have the staff licensed and the individual who's opening the salon have some type of license, it would at least decrease the potential for the labor violations. I am saying it wouldn't end it entirely because we do know that there are violations in a number of industries.
That's my reaction to it, is because, I mean, we had the sweep 2 weeks ago without this licensing, and the violations have nothing to do with the licensing. They have to do with more strictly labor-related, minimum wage requirements and so forth. Can you tell me also, because I suspect just from reading this article, and unfortunately in this world we have become so politically correct that no one will actually tell you the facts on certain things. It mentions the word immigrants in here over and over again in this article, but I suspect that these are undocumented or illegal immigrants. Is that a common trait of these non-legitimate salons?
So what we know from the Polaris Project, again, the National Human Trafficking Hotline, is that this happens in two ways. Either these individuals are solicited abroad in an Asian-based country, come through Flushing, Queens for the job into Connecticut, or they are being advertised the jobs in Flushing, Queens, New York. I can't speak to if these individuals are legal or not. There is research to show that some may not be.
Right. Based on that, I mean, we have a policy in this state called the Trust Act, which essentially restricts our law enforcement officials, and I presume it restricts the labor officials that were in this, in these salons from being able to report those folks to the federal authorities in violation of their immigration laws that we have on a national level. To me, that seems like a much more effective way to crack down on the trafficking piece of this. What do you have to say about that?
I'm actually interested in, is there a way to give those individuals a pathway to legitimately work in the industry more so than
Well, yeah. So I mean, but we all are. I mean, America is a melting pot, and it's the land of opportunity, and but we don't make those laws. The federal government makes those laws, and I mean, it seems to me the federal government is responsible for our borders and immigration policy, and one of the reasons for that is because they want to prevent human trafficking, and this to me seems like a great, a place where that's happening. Why would we not want to support the federal authorities in being able to prevent human trafficking?
Again, though, these individuals are here, and so are here working in a nail salon in Connecticut, and so my hope is to give them a pathway to be able to get adequate wages.
So they're working under the table, in my understand, and that's why they're not even being paid minimum wage. So I don't understand this. I mean, are you suggesting that the undocumented folks that work in these salons should be able to be licensed nail technicians?
That actually is a provision in New York's law and would be something I would support.
They are not even allowed to lawfully work inside our state.
We would disagree on this point.
Well, I don't think there's a disagreement. I mean, the federal government has supremacy on immigration, and it's well known that you can't work if you don't have.
The federal government also protects individuals who've been the victim of human trafficking with what's called a T visa. And
Right.
so because many of these individuals are potential trafficking victims, my hope would be to give them a pathway to work and not to deport them.
Is there anyone inside the state of Connecticut that can facilitate them getting a T visa?
Yes.
Who is that?
I always get their name wrong. They were the International Institute down in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Well, that's an agency or a group of attorneys, but that's not who gives them the actual T visa. Who does that?
That is through the courts when they agree to participate in some type of criminal justice
It's
proceeding.
actually the federal government because they have supremacy on federal law. And I understand this is not the place to debate this subject, really, but if your goal is to get after human trafficking, and human trafficking is a result of illegal immigration and people working in these salons because it's a source of a cash, some cash flow, it's a cash business, they can work under the table there, that is the problem. It is not the licensing of nail salons. I'm not opposed to the licensing of nail salons, although that should be happening with the industry being, participants in that discussion. I want to make it abundantly clear to the people here, I mean, why this is happening. It's because we are restricting the federal government from being involved in these things. And the federal government is the only entity that can actually help these people. If someone is apprehended working under the table as an undocumented person in a nail salon, the only person that can change their status as a victim of human trafficking is the federal ICE authorities. That's it. And our laws in this state restrict them from even talking to them. And I think that's a mistake. So I just hope we can work together on all of these subjects and how they interact going forward. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Are there other questions from members?